G'day to all you lovely people and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy and today I wanted to talk about The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I think it is the first book in the First Law trilogy. I have been reading fantasy for a long time, but I haven't read a lot of the newer authors. And I had seen a lot of great reviews about Abercrombie's works. So I thought, fine, I will give The Blade Itself, which I believe is his first published book, a go. So this was my first introduction to Joe Abercrombie's books. I have seen The Blade Itself described as more a character-driven piece rather than a plot-driven story. I agree with that. There is a simple plot about the barbarians to the north who are looking to start a war with a kingdom in the center of this world. I can't recall what the kingdom's called. As I said, this is more about the actual characters. There are three main ones whose points of view are explored at length in this book. There are a few others as well, but they're more minor. Now let's start off with Abercrombie's writing style. Initially, when I read the very first chapter, I hated it. I'll confess, I really did. I thought some of the writing was so immature and amateurish that I was surprised that people were raving about Abercrombie's writing. I couldn't see it. I thought, this just doesn't come across as good writing to me. He would describe, for example, a character exclaiming, "Ow!" and then adding, "he yelped." And I thought, you don't need to describe it. You've just told us that he's made this sound. So it bothers me. And I know that's nitpicking, but it was something that happens quite a lot throughout this book, which I really hated. And some of the descriptions I found quite ham-fisted and unappealing. That's being generous, I think. Now, before everyone starts accusing me of being too harsh, let me say this. I could see great potential in Abercrombie's writing. There are some beautifully written passages. I like a lot of the dialogue. Not all, however. I could just see so many rough edges to his writing, and some things were enough to really annoy me and make this a difficult book for me to finish. I think I stopped and started it at least 3 or 4 times. And if I wasn't the kind of person who has to finish what they start, I might have abandoned this book. So I will say that I did not love the writing in this book. I didn't even like it very much. I am hoping that future books, his writing is a little bit more polished, a little bit more flowing than it was in this. I know some people object to the books because of the language that is used or some of the violence. That does not concern me. I don't mind swearing, I don't mind violence if it is necessary for the story. The plot. As I said before, there is really not much plot. This is more a character-driven story, which is fine. We don't have to have a major plot as long as, say, the characters are really interesting, right? That's how I see it. I don't have any problems with a slow burn of a plot that takes time to develop if I enjoy reading about the characters. I'm going to get to the characters in a minute. The world building. I didn't see much at all. Very, very little. We got snippets here and there. I know that there are 3 different kingdoms, probably more. There is one to the north, the barbarians. There is the central kingdom. And then there is a kingdom to the south. I didn't get a great grasp of this world. I don't think we were meant to. Perhaps we learn more about it in the future books. I don't know. It was enough to give me a taste of what this world is, but that's all. We did spend a bit of time in the city. I think it's called Adua. We got to see the politics in this city, the different groups, the different factions, and the structure of how this city operates. I actually liked seeing the politics that play a part in this city, and I thought that was interesting. It could be fleshed out more, and perhaps it is in future. The magical system, we don't know much about it at all. There is a magician, Bias, I think his name is, but he is a more minor character in this book anyway. Now we're going to talk about the characters, because this is what this book is all about, is 3 main characters. Though there are others as well, I'm going to limit myself to the 3 main. The first is Logan Ninefingers, the barbarian. The second is Giselle, and the third is Glocta. Let's start off with Logan. He is a warrior, a barbarian from the north, who it seemed bathed in blood at times and has reached the point in his life where he is tired of killing, who also has a tragic backstory, I guess. I actually liked this character, but even though this is a book about the characters, I still don't feel I understand him all that well. He seems to be a character without any real motivation anymore, without any real hopes or aspirations. He perhaps is at a crossroads, but I just got the sense that he didn't know what to do with his life, so when the magician Bias called him, he went. I don't know why he stayed with him. Perhaps because he doesn't know what to do. He was a likable character, perhaps a reluctant hero type, I'm not sure. The second character, Giselle, wow. I absolutely despised this character. He has no redeeming qualities as far as I'm concerned. He was so dull and boring that every time I came to a chapter that was from his point of view, I had to really grit my teeth and get through it. I could not stand this character. He comes across as a childish, immature, selfish, vain, self-involved little shit. Yeah, he does not seem believable, given that he is in his 20s. He is such an arrogant popinjay that I was honestly so bored reading about him. He came across like a stupid 13, 14-year-old. And I think that is an insult to 14-year-olds. Seriously. I think he is meant to represent a character who has had a relatively easy life, who is privileged and elitist and has all these elitist attitudes towards the poor and others who aren't as lucky as him. Maybe we're meant to hate him. Well, I certainly did. So the author succeeded, if that was his purpose. Glocta. Now, Glocta was interesting. I think out of all 3, he was the most compelling character. He is a character who is an inquisitor, a torturer, who used to be a character very similar to Giselle, apparently. He was a famed swordsman who was captured during the war and tortured for several years, as a result of which he has been crippled, he has lost most of his teeth, and he suffers pain constantly. He has one of the most tragic backstories, which immediately elicits sympathy in you. And I found it so ironic that a character who had been tortured so much would in the end decide to become a torturer himself. He's also sometimes extremely funny, as he experiences a lot of pain climbing stairs or coming downstairs. He says in the book, "I wish I could find the person who invented stairs so I could torture them." As someone who is in a wheelchair and has constantly complained about stairs, I really related to that. And I think that made me relate to this character so much. He's an extremely bitter person. No surprise given what he has been through, but he's also extremely intelligent and not one for too much self-pity, I didn't feel. He, I felt, was the most compelling part of this book, his story. Because he's an interesting character. He has a lot more depth than Logan or Giselle. Well, Giselle has none, but Glocta does. The characterizations I felt were well done, especially regarding Glocta. I didn't think that Giselle's character was as well drawn, or perhaps he was and I just hated him so much that I didn't care. Very possible. Logan, I felt, was the least explored. I still feel he's a little bit of a mystery. We know some of his backstory, but not enough to explain why he did certain things in his life, why he is now on this path as compared to the one he had in the past. The other characters like Bayaz and I can't remember her name, the crazy one. What's her name? The crazy woman who was always running off. I didn't find them as interesting, but then we didn't spend as much time with them either. I also felt that we got a very superficial idea of who these characters are. Okay, so my thoughts. I will confess, I really struggled to finish The Blade itself. It took me a long time. I considered several times just giving it up. I did not find it compelling. I did not find it entertaining. I was not invested in the characters, though I did like Glocta. I even liked Logan, but it wasn't enough to hold my interest. The pacing was very slow at times, which I understood was so that we could learn who these characters were. But when you hate one character as much as I hated Giselle, and you are lukewarm towards, say, Logan, it made 2/3 of the book really boring. Yeah, it really did. After I finished it, I thought, yeah, I don't think I'll be reading anymore. I'm not intrigued enough to want to read the next book, though a part of me wants to give Abercrombie another go. I'm hoping that the writing in the second book has improved and I might enjoy the story a bit more. I like to give authors a good go. I like to read at least a couple of books before I decide they are not for me. So I'm going to ask you guys, if you have read The Blade itself or the First Law trilogy, tell me why you think I should continue the series. Is it worth continuing? Or am I right to want to abandon it here? Now, for a score. I score out of 10, and for me, anything below 5, I will not be rereading. So I'm going to give this a 4.5. I know some people will think that's too harsh. I know I am a tough scorer, but I score according to whether I enjoyed the book, and I really didn't. Let me know what you thought of The First Blade and what your thoughts are on it. You know, I always love to hear your opinions, and you can put it down in the comments or you can contact me on Instagram. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, do consider subscribing to my channel, as it helps my channel to grow. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.